one question does not make or break you on any test like that. So if you have one question that you totally don't know, you want to just say, you know what, this one is done. I'm moving on from that. What's going on YouTube? Today I have a video about testing anxiety, something many students suffer from on a daily basis, especially with what's going on with the coronavirus and the added pressure of school and just taking care of your obligations. I can tell a lot of students are getting a bit stressed out. In this video, I'm going to discuss what students can do to stay calm and avoid a negative situation with testing anxiety. Now, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell. We're dropping a lot of awesome content. We got the whole team working on some great stuff coming for you. So make sure to check it out and subscribe so you can keep updated on what we're doing. Also, check out our TikTok. We're doing some awesome stuff in there. We're answering all kinds of SAT and ACT questions, so check that out as well. Now, today's video is about testing anxiety. If you do feel you have testing anxiety, if you don't, this video is helpful because it can help anyone reduce the amount of stress they have during a test. First things first, guys, the most important way and the best way to avoid testing anxiety is to be prepared. Now, what does that really mean? That means several days before whatever exam you have, you probably want to start making study guides, reviewing notes, whatever study habits work for you. We'll get into a little bit about study habits in a second, but you want to make sure you give yourself a little bit of a time window. A lot of testing anxiety is caused by time, right? You just don't have enough time to get done what you want. You leave it to the last minute, and that causes anxiety to go up. When you go into a situation feeling extra prepared, you're usually going to feel better about it. So I just wanted to get that one out of the way. Now, like I said, I was going to discuss a little bit about good study habits. You probably want to start 2 to 3 days before a test if you're in high school or college. You might want to start a little bit more than that for a final, but for a regular test, if you start a few days before, you'll have a much better chance of success. Now, what are some great study habits that I've used? I really like making study guides. We've given out 80,000 or more free study guides to students. I really like the study guide because what you can do is you can take it and you can write on it and you can make it your own. So I would suggest making study guides for tests and then making them your own by annotating, highlighting, doing whatever, makes you feel comfortable. Some other great tools are things like Kahoot. You can make online quizzes and review them. You can share them with friends. Sometimes collaboration also lowers anxiety levels as well because you're all in it together. Whatever you do, the important thing is that you establish a routine that works for you and you use that on tests going forward. So when you find something that works, you want to make sure to apply that to all of your subjects and all of your classes so you can feel more comfortable in all areas of school. Number 2, you want to make sure to get rested up. You don't want to go into a test pulling an all-nighter, and that's why this is point 2, because point 1 was about study habits. Point 2 is you really need to get rest. So you don't want to spend all night studying because then even if you know the material, you're going to be too tired to focus on the test and probably not paying attention. Also, getting a good night's sleep is great for your mental health. It doesn't overexhaust you. It doesn't add stress onto your plate. Not having any sleep adds stress onto any human's plate or any animal for that matter. You don't want to be exhausted. So that's a great point. Now, I know it's difficult to get enough sleep, but if you plan out your study habits a few days in advance, you can just put yourself to bed at an appropriate time the night before so you can get that rest. Point number 3, any kind of situation where you're going to a testing site, say for the SAT or the ACT or even for your school for an exam, you want to make sure that you're early, that you're punctual, that you're comfortable. You have all your materials, you have your notes, you have your pens, your pencils, your calculator for a math test. Whatever the case may be, being prepared as a whole helps you feel more comfortable, that you're not running up to the test site the last minute. Can some people handle this kind of situations? Yes, that's true. But for most of us, it's much better to feel comfortable and relaxed before we go into any kind of exam. Now, let's talk a little bit about nutrition and eating. Clearly, food is something that's important for your brain and your body to feel energetic and uplifted while you're taking a test. Now, you don't want to go in there on an empty stomach. That's typically a bad idea. The other thing you don't want to do is eat something totally out of character that you've never eaten before and have that as your breakfast before a test. That's also a bad idea because if you eat some random stuff, you're probably going to upset yourself. Now, certain foods are known as brain foods. You have things like good fats, salmon, so on and so forth, can really, for some people, help them feel a level of energy and mental acuity that surpasses what they normally feel. I don't know if I necessarily buy into that, but I think you just have to have some food in your system. So whatever your normal breakfast is or your normal eating habits, stick to those on a day of a big test. Don't just go in there totally famished because you were too nervous to eat. You also want to make sure to stay hydrated. Make sure you have enough water. Probably bring a water to the SAT or the ACT, and make sure that you stay hydrated. You don't pass out or just feel totally drained during a standardized test or any test for that matter. An added point for that is you might want to spend some time exercising on the day of the test or before the test. Gets the blood flowing, and it really helps you get a lot of energy going into something, and that could be another great tip. So let's talk about some positive attitude and positive thinking skills that you can engage in to reduce your testing anxiety. Now, the first thing is being prepared helps you feel positive about what you're doing. You want to have a positive attitude going to a test and believe that you will succeed. Genuinely believe that you've done what you need to do to prepare for the test. It's important to remember that positive thinking helps you get positive results. If you have negative thoughts that something's going to go wrong or it's not going to go your way, that could possibly be a self-fulfilling prophecy. You could be setting yourself up for failure by thinking that way. So that's why it's so important to keep success, good grades, and positive vibes in your mindset when you're going into any test. Now, if you suffer from really strong testing anxiety, you actually want to think positive vibes, but also try to control your breathing and emotions during the test. If you hit a rough patch, if you have a bad moment during a test, you want to slow it down, take a deep breath, and try to bring yourself back to reality so you can focus on the exam instead of focus on how stressed you are. All right, point number 6, how do I avoid testing anxiety on long exams? You have to keep it moving, and you cannot dwell on one bad question or one bad piece where you didn't know the answer. You have to take that in stride and move on and continue to the things that you can be successful on. This applies perfectly to something like the SAT or ACT. One question does not make or break you on any test like that. So if you have one question that you totally don't know, instead of staring at it for 35 minutes, you want to just say, you know what, this one is done. I'm moving on from that. I'm going to get on to the questions that I can do and succeed on. And that's an awesome attitude for you guys to take. Another factor that's similar to that is you don't want to pay attention to what anyone else is doing on the test. They usually say the word on the street is that the student that leaves the test first and the student that leaves the test last typically don't do well because the first one rushed it and the last one probably didn't know what they were doing. Now, that's not always a rule that you can live by, but I wouldn't pay attention to what those kids are doing because they may not be successful. They may not be doing something right. If you see the student next to you is finished an entire section and you're still on question 1, yes, that could be an alarming sign for you, but also you could be moving at an appropriate pace and they could be rushing. So you really just can't focus at all on what anyone else is doing during a test. You just keep your head on your paper and you just pay attention to what you have to do. And my last point, guys, is if you are feeling some kind of stress or anxiety during tests or in school, you should seek help from one of your guidance counselors or a teacher or a parent and really just speak up. You don't want to be living in this world of anxiety-stricken testing in school. It's just not fun. It's not helpful, right? So you should definitely speak up if you are feeling stressed about school and about tests in general, and then you can get the help that you need from your guidance counselors and support staff at your school. And if you feel like you do have testing anxiety, you're not alone. So many students suffer from testing anxiety and issues with testing, so you shouldn't feel like you're abnormal or you're out of place. Like, that's a totally normal thing to feel, and it's a really great way to connect with someone at your school and kind of help fix that rather than hide it, right? One of the things, like I said, that can really improve your feelings of anxiety during a test is being prepared. So check out this video on how to prepare yourself for the SAT reading section.